Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm calling to order the Select Board meeting, Town of Kennebunkport, on March 13th. It is 6:03. Alan Daggett is on Zoom tonight, so I do want to first acknowledge that. And Alan, can you hear us?
No,
Or his voice.
Are you, hopefully you are muted.
there he is. He's muted.
Is he muted?
I think we do need to hear you, so we'll give you a second to unmute, or Dave will get you unmuted, or the mutations will follow, or something.
I don't know if he has a bad connection or not. I'm not hearing anything, though his mic is on.
Can I get a thumbs up?
You hear me
on
now?
the visual?
Yes.
There we go, we just heard him.
Great, thank you, thank you.
Hear me?
We got you, Alan, thank you.
Okay,
Tonight, we have a joint meeting with the Select Board for the beginning of the meeting, and then we're hoping about 7 o'clock to move on to the Select Board meeting, but I think folks will understand and appreciate that a lot of work has gone into putting together this budget book. The managers are here, and we want to be sure to be able to provide them the time they need to be able to represent their ask on the budget. So again, we're shooting for 7 o'clock, and I'll ask the Budget Board please to open their meeting.
Okay, so let's start off with roll call, and it looks like we have everyone here. So Carol Cook? Here. Okay, no particular order at this rate, 'cause I can't see too far down. Alan Evelyn?
Here.
Dan Beard?
Here.
Charles Tremblay? Bob Wester?
Here.
Rick Wakeland?
Here.
Dimitri Michaud?
Here.
Kai Leffler?
Here.
David Jordan?
Right here.
David Betsis?
Here.
And Michelle Powell, all present.
So. All right, you can do the.
Yes. So, thank you, everyone. We are going to finish up tonight with the operations budgets. So we are going to start with Chief Everett and the Fire Department.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, Jay.
Hi, Jay.
Hi, Jay.
How are ya? Just waiting for it to pop up on the screen there, my death by PowerPoint.
And tap on your microphone. Good.
Gotta maybe,
And speak up, project.
All right,
He's too tall.
I'm very quiet today,
There's a first.
so. I didn't say I keep my mouth shut, it's just very quiet today. So, go ahead to the next one, Dave. This one here, this is just a little snapshot of our calls for service and things last year, what our stats were, things like that. Nothing really major, I'll get into more of it as we go on. Go ahead, Dave. Just a quick organizational chart. I have myself and the fire administrator with 3 deputy chiefs, 3 captains and 3 lieutenants, with 60 or so volunteers because the people up above count in that plus 70. Go ahead, Dave. So we talk about this almost pretty much every year, but to refresh people's memory, the 2-in, 2-out rule is a CFR, a federal regulation that we have to follow. That I have to have 2 interior firefighters outside if I send 2 into a building that is an IDLH. It's immediately dangerous to life and health. Smoke, carbon monoxide, whatever a chemical may be, or something like that. The only time you can not use, or I could go against this rule, is when there's an obvious rescue to be made. Somebody's outside saying somebody's in there, or I can see somebody in a window. I could go myself if that's what the case might be. So we have to assemble this on scene if, say, there was a building fire and nobody was out there to tell us anything different, like no cars in the driveway, and like here in the wintertime. It could be the house is just vacant for the winter season. So it takes a little bit longer for maybe us to get going, But this is what I use as a measuring stick for how often we do it, and you'll see that in a couple more slides. Go ahead. Oh, yeah.
Just out of curiosity, if, say, Kennebunk also was at a fire, and you arrived, can you use their outside?
Yes, I
guard?
absolutely can.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, but again, it's the travel time
Yeah.
of the notification and then travel time from whatever town I'm getting mutual aid from.
Okay.
But yes, they would count towards this. So this slide here is showing us a comparison of 2024 with the year before. There's a couple things that I think are really good on this. Our average number of, or total people per call in the kind of gold box on each of them, it only went down 0.3 people from 23 to 24. That's not a bad thing. I think we were a little bit higher than that even last year. But the bigger thing is look at the dark blue compared to the light
Yeah.
blue. 2024 was the first year that we've had more interior qualified, and these are the people that help us meet the 2 in, 2 out rule, that there's been more of them on average than the interior firefighters. Some of that is because, the exterior only firefighters. Some of that is because you're an exterior firefighter first, then you take the training should you desire that and become interior. So I'm picking from one basket and putting them in another, but the other basket is very good. So I'm getting more of the people that we need there, and again, we can be there faster than having to wait for some mutual aid if that's the case. Go ahead, Dave. So this is just a quarterly snapshot of last year with our interior and exterior people and how many on average we got. It's interesting, every year I've been here doing this, the first quarter is always the lowest and it tends to trend up. And I believe it's because, like a lot of people, some people aren't here in the winter and they take their vacations then, and but it's always been that way. But again, and it was all year long that our interior averaged more than our exterior.
Wow.
Go ahead, Dave. So here's what I was getting at, what I use the 2 in, 2 out rule for. So you can see this is the last 3 years. So in 2022, of all the calls we had, I take out calls like grass fires, car fires, things like that. I only count calls where we might run into that IDLH atmosphere. So in 2022, we had 142 instances where we could have had to meet that should there have been a problem in the building. We only met it 75% of the time, or 51%. As you look at the subsequent years, we're going up in a good direction. We had less calls for meeting the 2 in, 2 out in 24 than we did 23, but we brought the percentage up by 19 points. And that 95%, I mean, that's great. I'm ecstatic about that.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you can tell by my face, right? But when you look at the 51%, that's a coin flip.
Yeah.
And so we're doing better, and that's a wonderful thing. The numbers aren't trending in a bad direction. I think they're pretty good. Go ahead, Dave. So this is just showing where our age is. The age actually came down a little bit from 2023. Too late this afternoon, I noticed a typo that I had made on this. In the lower right hand, the box, it should be 21% of the department is under 30. And that's up 5 points. That's last year's unfortunate number. But so we're up 5% there, and we only went up a few percent in the over 60. But unfortunately, in a few years, I'm gonna be in that group. So go ahead, Dave. And this is taking the same thing over under 30 and over 60 members, how many we had each year. But again, we brought the year, almost 2 years off our median age is a good thing. I just started onboard training 2 people that are probably low 30s. So they'll help the average too.
Chief, are any of the ones that are in the lower age buckets, say 30 and below, are any of them trained with EMS also?
A couple of them are. But we don't have a lot with EMS licenses.
Okay.
But it's certainly something that, especially having Seth as a training coordinator, he can do those classes for us, should a time come.
Okay, thanks.
Question, Chief?
Sure,
Are your months calendar years?
yes,
Thank you.
Chief, I have a question.
sure.
I don't have a mic, but if you don't meet, oh, there it is. If you can't meet the 2 in, 2 out rule in a particular instance, does that mean that your people are going to be taking an additional risk, or are you limited in what you're able to do?
So I'm limited in what I'm able to do, but maybe I didn't explain it very well. That's what I have to meet to go into a building that might have smoke or something, bad, CO, whatever. I can meet that with whoever, as long as they're trained. So if it's mutual aid from Kennebunk or Arundel or something like that, it does take a little bit longer to get things going. We haven't had a call where, we've obviously had calls where we didn't meet it ourselves, but the percentage of the calls we actually need it, when you looked at last year, was 160 calls or so. We probably only needed it for maybe 20 of those. And we made it, and fortunately, we made it ourselves probably on all of them. I didn't keep track of it that way, but it's not that big an issue. It's just having a measuring stick of how we're doing.
Thank you.
All right. Go ahead, Dave. So this graph is just showing us where we've been call-wise over the last 10 years. We were pretty, 2015, 16, around 200, and now we're basically have doubled that in 10 years with a little bit of ups and downs. But the past 3 years, it's gone up considerably. Yep.
Are those all fire calls?
Yes. As far as, and I have a slide that we'll get into in a minute, but, yeah, because we will go and help chems when they need it, but we don't provide EMS. We don't usually, we only go on EMS calls when they need us. So these are all fire calls.
Wow.
But what percentage of those now are Mickey Mouse calls, in the sense of somebody didn't put the daggone battery in their detector,
Yep.
so it goes beep,
Yep,
as
and-
opposed to back in 215?
Yeah, in a couple slides, that'll probably be the answer for that. I don't have a direct number, but I can show you in a graph.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, other than people just staying here longer, were there any other reasons why that rose almost 100%? I mean, that's huge.
Well, it is, but even backing out the 2023 storm calls. So when you look at 2023, if I remember right, we did 386 calls.
Yeah,
We could back out about 80 of those calls as being the storms earlier in the year and the
Right.
big snowy one in December.
right.
We can also take out 58 calls in 2024 for the January storms. But we're still trending. If you took those out, we would still have more calls than the year before and the year before that. So I'm just showing that this is a trend.
But those big bumps have storm-related.
Yeah.
Most of the sharp angles, yes, but it still is trending up.
Yep.
So the Grinch is 23 and then January's 24.
Go ahead, Dave. So this is the graph. So, and I know it's hard to see some of the different colors, but what this does is it breaks down our calls. So when you look at the gray boxes in the bottom, those are our fires. Those are a call, anything burned that we would have gone to, whether it was grass, a telephone pole, a vehicle fire, building fire. The purple line is the one where we pulled out, and you can see that, our structure fires are way down, not way down, but they're not as big as the other boxes. You can look at 24 and say, well, that looks kind of the second, or maybe one of the biggest, but that's because in Dock Square alone, we had we had 4 buildings, because they were underwater, that qualified as structure fires because of the arcing and sparking that was going on because of the water in the buildings. Same thing you can say with the red banks of our hazardous condition calls, which are water problems, electrical issues, things like that. And then also with the dark blue calls, those are pretty normal, you can see across the board. Those are what Dan was asking about. Those are everything from, you know, oops, I forgot to cover a detector while I was sanding something. I forgot to put batteries in, whatever. Those are those calls in there. And then the green is just when we go to another town. Usually Wells, Kennebunk, and Arundel the most. Biddeford. Yep.
Chief, I just have a question. I'm one of your regular customers. I have an alarm system that's pretty finicky. But one time, probably a few months ago, we had a kitchen smoky situation,
Yeah.
for lack of better terms. And Jim Stockman came, because we told the alarm company it was okay, but
Yep.
you still have to come out, right?
Yeah, so in a case like that, when somebody, they have an alarm system, and I'm assuming you have,
Cunningham.
yeah, but you have a code word, whatever,
Yeah.
with, so they know it's you. They can verify it's you to cancel it. They'll tell us, but we will still send it one person just to make sure that A, everything's all right, because some people have done things where, oh, well, I thought everything was out, but also too, where you have a system is to make sure that it's reset so that it's protecting you. That's the reason why.
I offered him a drink, but he doesn't drink, so.
Well, don't do that for me, I may never leave.
But those would show up on service calls.
Yeah, those are our service calls. And so the only other one that I jumped over was the amber ones. Those are the rescues, so those are when we go and help chems, when we take people out of stalled elevators, if we extricated somebody at a car accident or things like that. Though, and the way these are national titles for the calls. When we put a call in, it goes into our national reporting database, and like a 321 call is an emergency medical call all across the country, and that way they can tabulate how many times we went to calls like that and those kind of things. Go ahead, Dave. You can get to the next one too. So you can see from this graph that last year we were just over 50% of our calls were between 8 in the morning and 8 p.m. In 2024, actually 76 point something percent were in that, of our calls were in that same time frame. The reason this is important is if we did go to per diem down the road, we could say, all right, at first we're only gonna hire during the day, or during the day, during the week, to capture most of our calls. But again, with the 2 in, 2 out, the amount of people I'm getting, I don't see the need in this budget. Go ahead, Dave. And this is just one for the calls of where they were in the week. In 2024, you can see that Saturday was one of the big storms. The January storm was a Wednesday and a Saturday. And so that's why, and Wednesday is one of the next largest ones. But just over the 3 years, just seeing a trend, it's really nothing that I can point to and say, this is why we're doing this, but it is good to see, to know when our calls are and that kind of stuff. Is there one more, Dave, I think? Yeah. So this is just a little graph of where our people live. It doesn't account for it accounts for every single person where they live, but if the numbers for where they work don't add up to the same number as the members in the department, because the rest of them work even farther away from town, and when they're gone for work, we're probably not gonna see them. These are the towns that somebody could get back home to help us before it's quicker, I guess I should say. I think that's the last, oh, yeah. So my budget drivers a little bit are some additional staff, paying for some additional staff hours. 4 of them a week are for me. I usually work 36 to 40 hours a week, and for however long, quite a number of years, my salary's been at a 32-hour work week. So I'm asking for that increase. I'm also asking to increase the training coordinator for 2 more hours a week to bring him to 12 hours a week. He's doing a really good job for us. But then that's also the increased hours for our on-call firefighters, because with Seth's help, we're doing more training, especially with that big, beautiful truck we have out in the bay. There's a lot of that, so that's increasing our hours overall, not just our call hours for emergencies, but our training hours are a lot more than they have been over the years, and are probably gonna continue to stay that way. And then some equipment for the training, a rescue dummy and a laptop computer to help him do his job. Next one, Dave? Yeah. Any other questions?
Chief, you were tracking a metric for the per diems. Where are we on that? Like, are we getting closer, or are we maintaining?
I think, honestly, I would say we are a smidge farther away than we were last year at this time, because our numbers are good, and I don't see the numbers falling off a cliff where we're gonna have to say all of a sudden, we have to do something. So that's a good thing, but where the numbers are trending in a good direction. I'm not losing our average number of people by maybe a tiny little bit, but we're accomplishing the mission. And I'm not worried about not being able to do it for FY26.
And roughly how many people this year do you think you might be transitioning out, that you might have for new hire?
I'm sure there's some, but I've already, like I said, I'm in boarding training with two young people already this year, and that's been another trend is we're getting a little bit younger, and those people, these 2 individuals, indicated that they didn't want to just be an exterior firefighter. They wanted to do the whole, so that's good for us.
So they want to do the EMS, is that what you said?
Oh, sorry, I was on the per diem, or the interior, sorry.
Okay, so interior, exterior,
Yeah,
and
and,
interior.
I
okay.
mean, we've had those conversations, and I think there'll be some people that will want to do it. Some people will already have some sort of EMS licensure. I couldn't tell you if we would be able to supply 100% of that.
Yep, okay. Thank you.
We might be able to over time, but it's not gonna probably be like right
Yeah,
out of the gate.
no, thank you.
Yeah, it's encouraging.
Aren't we just about the only department anywhere near us that is still totally volunteer? You look at Kennebunk, Arundel, and on and
Yep,
on.
all the towns that touch us, and Wells, are certainly all paid full-time or per diem, or a mix. So it's a good thing that we can do this, and, I preach to the members that, it's tough for a chief to push the per diem button because, he just wanted a full-time paid department. For me, that couldn't be farther from the truth. I believe in the community-based resource, and I believe our community-based resource is vibrant right now. And I think that's because we have a welcoming attitude to people. Anybody can come in, even if they have no intention of becoming interior qualified, there's still things they can be trained to do and help us with. And I think that's some of the reason why our numbers are, well, albeit slightly, trending in a better direction than down.
So somebody could just come in and learn how to drive the truck?
That's what I'm hearing.
I'm joining.
Maybe sorry, go ahead.
How many hydrants do we have on private lanes?
So we don't have any on private lanes. So let me back up one step. The municipal hydrants that KK&W installs and maintains, those are only on public ways. They'll put a private hydrant in, but somebody ends up paying for that private hydrant, whether it's a homeowners association or something like that.
Okay.
In the areas of town outside of the hydranted area, we have dry hydrants. Those are a static water supply like a cistern or a pond. Those are on some of those are on private lanes. And we have agreements, or at least when we put them in, there were agreements that yes, we can put this in, and yes, if there's a fire in the neighborhood or you need to use it, we can.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Chief.
Sure.
Thank you.
So I just have to say that the reason that our fire department is doing so well is because of the influence of Chief Everett. He doesn't like to take ownership of that, but he does create a good culture and a welcoming atmosphere, and we've taken in people who weren't welcomed in other departments, and he believes that everybody has a role to play, and the education and training process has kept us where we are.
I'll back
This
that
is
up.
my
I'll back that up. I've been a member for 63 years, I think it is now, and you're doing a darn good job.
Thank you, sir.
And Dan and I don't hand out compliments like that.
Not easily.
Not easily.
So, not to have death by PowerPoint, this is the only slide for emergency management. The emergency management budget is staying the same that it always is the $1,500 to help to cover anything that we might need for any type of say we opened a cooling center and we needed to go buy ice or water or whatever, we could do that.
Yep.
So that's it.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So next we have our favorite nurse, Allison Kennebunkport, and we're on page 126 with the Public Health Department.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Allison Kennebunkport, Director of the Public Health Department, and first I'd like to begin by thanking everyone, all of you and all of the community for all the support that everyone gives to our office. We really appreciate everything and all that we receive from the town. Our nursing department takes a great pride in being part of this community and is dedicated to serving and supporting our town. Please don't hesitate to reach out if there's anything that we can do to help or assist you. This slide up here right now is, as you can see from this first slide, our statistics from last year. We've had a lot going on: home visits, office visits, foot care, beach testing, vaccine clinics, outreach, education. Each day's different, and it's every month to month, year to year is different. Next slide, please. For the past 78 years, Kennebunkport Public Health Nursing has been dedicated to working with and educating our residents and visitors on issues related to disease outbreaks, health-related issues, water quality at our beaches, vaccines and vaccination clinics, like COVID and the influenza. The Public Health Department is also a resource for town employees to seek medical attention, education, and wellness initiatives. And much like the CDC, our Public Health Department adapts to current issues, such as the COVID-19 pandemic. And as town nurses, we must remain flexible to meet the needs of the community. Our roles involve responding to medical crisis, supporting residents from newborns to elders, and providing care in various settings. During the early stages of the pandemic, there was a widespread uncertainty, fear, and hesitation. This led to a reduction in our home visits to protect our vulnerable elderly population from potential contamination. Many were afraid to even let us in. Remember washing your groceries before you went and got them in the door. Instead, we shifted our care to COVID-19 testing and education through our office. So this slide up here shows our home nursing visits since 2019, and the decline in the home visits in 2020, 2021 was due to the pandemic. But as you see, the numbers begin to rise again until 2024. So we all know that our community is aging, and the decrease in 2024 could be related to patient deaths, in-home care like hospice, hired nursing care, or other placement to facilities where our services end. This trend is cyclical, and we anticipate increases and decreases in clients as we continue to serve our community. Our departments always be essential through the level of activity varies depending on the current health wave. Imagine a world where all our services were not needed. We were healthy and disease-free. Next slide, please. As you can see in this slide, our office visits spiked in 2021 due to testing at the office. So we had a huge influx of office visits. Once the emergency declaration was lifted, CDC protocols changed and the need for testing decreased. And the cost of continuing the testing outweighed the demand, so we stopped providing testing in our office once our supplies ran out. We do continue to be a valuable resource to the community at our office, where we see clients for various reasons. People come to us for education, blood pressure checks, dressing changes, medication administration, foot care, and more. And we are also provide resources to families caring for their loved ones. And our durable medical loan closet is always in demand. And through our office, we offer fuel assistance, food assistance, and general assistance. Next slide, please. This slide is just showing the combination of office and home visits together. And it demonstrates a consistent flow of contacts with people year-round. Winter tends to be a little busier, and it kind of correlates with flu, pneumonias, other diseases. And additionally, many procedures like hips, knees, shoulders are all scheduled in the winter and into early spring. Just happens to be that way. And then those people require our care after for post-op services. So year after year, our statistics reveal a consistent pattern, compelling us to continually adapt and change directions to deliver our services to the town. Next slide. And so the goals for the Public Health Department is just to continue providing medical care to residents and guests, both in home and in the office. Continue programming for health, wellness, and education to the community. Continue water quality at our beaches, foot clinics, provide general assistance and social service needs to the town, and training for the nurses. So only budget changes that I have are just due to wage and contractual adjustment requests. And then also there's a small increase in the salary as there's a just getting prepared potential retirement in the future. So just kind of putting that on the side. Any questions?
I think one of the things that talks about flexibility with public health was a couple of years ago, Allison came up with the idea of getting trained to do foot care. And we sent her out west, and she did complete that training, and she has foot care clinics, because she says that, you know, the feet are like the roots of the tree.
That's right.
And that you have to maintain people's feet health because it impacts so much of their other health. So she opened her foot care clinics, and they have been a booming success.
Yes.
You could do them many more days of the month, but people are really coming and enjoying them.
Yes, absolutely.
Good. Excellent.
Cool. You do a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Allison.
I think I'm up still
Oh,
for the
sorry.
next part. I think there's one more slide, Dave. Okay, so again, I want to thank the community for the generosity and the support to our office, and it's an honor to be part of such a caring community and to assist those who need help in navigating through challenging times. The Public Health Department is dedicated to providing essential resources and guiding residents in the right direction where it's needed. The Public Health Department oversees the state-mandated General Assistance Program, which is an income-based program, requires application process. If the individuals do not meet or do not qualify for the state assistance, then we can offer support through other programs that we have through the generosity of our community. So, for example, we have a fuel assistance program, we have a food assistance program, and we have a general needs program. Last year, we had 13 families that we assisted with fuel assistance and 4 CMP disconnects. And we had, through the general needs, we helped 3 families with some rent assistance. We have various other ways to help families too. We have the Health Council that has a back-to-school backpack program, along with Rotary CS3 has a school clothing program. And we had 7 children participate in receiving supplies and backpacks and everything for school. We have Secret Santa, which is, we had 6 children that participated in that. And Community Harvest and Community Outreach Service provide holiday meals and holiday food baskets that you can prepare meals for people in need. And we had 14 families that received these meal baskets for both Christmas and Thanksgiving. And then the apparel impact boxes that we have in town, I'm able to utilize that service to get clothing, linens, and bedding and things for families in need, if we need it, because we house them in town. We also work really closely with York County Community Action, because they also have a fuel assistance program, electric assistance, and house repair. And they have an economic development office that helps clients, low-income families with financial stability, organization, and bill paying. So we work a lot with them too. So last year, general assistance, we had 15 applications through just the town. And actually, none of them qualified through the state program, but we were able to help everyone with all these other programs. So. Any questions? Yes.
The apparel impact.
Yes.
I know that's really good, and I know what you do and how we get rebated, sort of, that it's a well-kept secret, I think, as far as that's concerned, in the town, that people don't really know. They just, I'm gonna get rid of it, type thing like that. I think some way, if we could maybe
Highlight.
do a social media thing or something like that, might be good. I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. People know about it but don't understand the impact.
Yeah,
And
'cause I
our-
see people there all the time. I drove in today and there's.
Yeah. So, I mean, Yanina can work with Allison on
Okay.
posting
Sounds good.
something.
Yeah, good idea.
Underscore how they can help you get material for and clothing and sheets and blankets, and that's really huge.
And you're talking the box.
Yes,
I
those
mean, I would second
Like a
that, because we drop stuff in there, but I don't think until you just said it that I even
So if I
connected
have
the
a
two.
family in need that needs, say, bedding
Yeah.
or clothes for some children or something, I can call them and give them sizes and what I need, and they'll.
No, but I think that would be great to know, because rather than, let's say, going to Goodwill or something, and
Right.
benefit and dropping it off, if you knew you could do it here, and you're
Right.
helping people in town, yeah.
Yes, Kai?
I was just curious about fuel assistance and that sort of thing. Do you have enough money? I don't see exactly where it is here in the budget.
The fuel assistance is a donation, is just donations to
I know,
the
but do you
account.
have enough money to cover the requests?
So far, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
And
we
I
do.
just wondered what we could do about that. There are other sources for that.
It's also one of those flexible graphs. Some
Right.
years it's more, some year, and it also depends, I think, on, well, a lot of things, but
Right,
how
right.
cold the winter is and. so.
Yeah, the donations go into a separate reserve account. And we currently have, people have been very generous and we have enough funding. It's really a matter of like you said, how cold the winter is, how bad or good the economy is, and then also whether LIHEAP, which is the heating program that the federal government issues, and sometimes they retract funding there quite severely, which means that we're not just supplementing, but we're buying people fuel outright.
Right. Well, I would hope if you ever run out, you'd let us know.
I think everyone would know.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thanks,
You do it.
Allison.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Al.
So if we move to page 135, we're under health and welfare. And we are in the shellfish conservation. So shellfish conservation is about our clam flats. And the majority of the budget pays for our shellfish warden, who goes out and inspects the flats, make sure that if they are closed due to a Department of Marine Resources edict, then that we are posting them, but also make sure that people who are digging in the flats are abiding by the rules. We also pay for mileage, and then this year, the big change is $2,000 for purchasing seed clams. So the board has talked to the shellfish warden about maybe needing to reseed the flats. So they purchase a bunch of seeds, very tiny clams. They oftentimes will get those with licenses to go out and help seed the flats, and then hopefully those clams grow.
Or would that be covered by fees for like the recreational shellfish?
We do get fees on the revenue side that would offset that, yeah.
So is that seating, is this for both recreational and commercial, or?
Yeah, it's for everybody, yeah. Okay, if you go to the next page, it is our public restrooms account. So this shows the expenses both for the Dock Square restrooms, so this covers costs related to contracting for the cleaning service as well as the supplies needed. And we also have porta potties, both at the beach and at Government Wharf. And these costs are all covered by the Dock Square revenue account, so the expenses are budgeted here and are paid for here. But then one of those transfers we talked about in the first night, the transfer from the Dock Square fund offsets this cost. Any questions on that?
So there was a restroom in Colony Beach for like a month or so last year. Is that's under Park and Rec though, right? So that's not this. Okay.
No, we had it put in because of the Marine camp they were doing at Colony Beach with the kids. And so they wanted to make sure they had a restroom available. We used to go to the Colony Hotel, but that relationship changed.
So when we get to that, can we talk about that?
About recreation
About the porta potty
at the Colony?
at Colony? Or you want to do it now?
Well, right next is Stephanie and Recreation, so it goes perfectly into that. So do you want to talk about it first?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Yes, I can talk about the restroom. That is actually in our special revenue budget because it is related to programming. But we did budget this year to have it there for the full 3 months.
For the full 3 months?
Yeah.
Okay.
But if anyone wants to help support that, we're always taking donations.
Well, we talked about that at Rotary, but I did give Steph a check today to support a scholarship. For
Yes. I did receive a check for a scholarship for our summer camp
For over
program.
$1,000.
So that's very nice.
Yes. So thank you. But I am Stephanie Simpson, Director of Parks and Recreation. Thank you for having me here tonight. As you can
And Stephanie's right under the Recreation tab.
Okay. This first slide here is just some of our statistics that we have been very busy this past year. So a lot of program registrations, beach wheelchair rentals, a lot of special events that we put on this past year. Our camps and our participation is all up this year. Next slide. Our Parks and Recreation Department consists of 3 full-time staff. And then throughout the year, we hire or they work for us at least 40, sometimes more, depending on what programming we have going on. There are some staff that are seasonal throughout the summer, but we do have staff all year long in many of our programs. Next slide. So the Parks and Recreation operates under 2 budgets. We have the general fund budget and our special revenue budget. Tonight we are talking about the general fund budget. And this covers our general expenses related to running the department, includes salaries and benefits for our full-time staff, utilities at the building, some professional services, and then building equipment repair and replacement. Next slide. some things I want to mention to you. Some of our budgets have gone up a little bit, and I just wanted to point that out and explain. Under staff and benefits, our salaries have gone up, and this is to align with the new pay plan that the village has implemented, or the town has implemented, excuse me.
You went back to Illinois for a
I
minute.
did, sorry. But having competitive salaries ensures a good staff, it retains staff, and attracts good staff to us. And it directly impacts our programming and the success of our programs. Our health insurance line item is up. We did have one of our staff members join our plan here at the town, along with his spouse. The categories of dues and fees, travel and meetings, trainings and education are all kind of correlated together. These are increasing because I think it's very important for staff to stay up to date with industry trends. I think it's important for staff to attend conferences, meetings, get involved with our state association, and as well as networking opportunities with all the other towns and communities in the state of Maine. I've also budgeted for one of our staff to become first aid CPR instructor trained, so that we don't have to rely on Allison and her team all the time to certify our staff in CPR first aid. We usually do this once a year, but with having somebody on staff doing it, we'll be able to train new staff as they get hired.
Because we're really training all that summer staff.
Yes, summer staff is always trained. It's the staff that start mid-year that we might not get trained until the summer. I've also budgeted for one member of our team to become a playground safety inspector. We currently have 2 playgrounds. We're looking at potentially a 3rd playground at some point in the next few years. But as the 2 playgrounds we have age, it's very important that we inspect them on a regular basis to make sure that there's no safety issues happening and can get those corrected. Under our utilities, our electricity usage is going up. That is due because the budget is based on current usage. And as you know, current usage was high this past winter. So that is why that is a little bit higher. Our phone system has also increased with our new system that we have. We now have 3 lines coming into the building instead of just 1. And then we have the new category of the paid family medical leave. Under our supplies and equipment, our operating supplies budget has actually decreased this year. Last year I did budget to have a portable generator purchased, so we've taken that out of the budget for this coming year. And then our repair and maintenance category, the vehicles and our equipment, as they start aging as well, we anticipate some more repairs throughout the year. So that has gone up a little bit. One thing to keep in mind too, that although the budget has gone up a little bit, we do a transfer fund from the special revenue fund, and this year that will be increasing as well. So you'll see that when I present the special revenue budget. Next slide. So I just want to focus on the recreation department and all that it does. It supports a variety of programs for all ages throughout the year, from preschoolers to seniors. And throughout this past year, we've seen an increase in participation in all categories. Our parks serve as a vital community gathering place, and your investment in the parks and the recreation department contribute to the residents' quality of life and the community well-being. But one other thing I want to point out, we also employ a lot of teenagers from the community. And these are valuable jobs for our teens. We have camp counselors, after-school staff, referees for our athletic programming, and gym attendants. And for a lot of these kids, this is their first job. So your investment in Parks and Recreation enhances many people in our community, and it increases the quality of life here in Kennebunkport. So thank you for your support. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Now, are you still planning the programming that you had for last summer?
Yes.
So all the,
Did you want to put some request?
no, I enjoyed them last summer. So.
Did you want to tell people about them?
Are you, you're talking
I
the
was talking
concerts?
about the concerts.
Yeah,
The
okay.
concerts.
So we do concerts over the summer. We have 3 planned this year, one for June, July, and August. And if you haven't been, you should totally come out because they are a lot of fun. We have bands, we have food trucks, we have beer vendors, we have activities for the children, we have the bounce house out, face painting. They're a lot of fun, so you should all come out.
And Kennebunk Savings is one of our sponsors.
Yeah, Kennebunk Savings and Pac Maynard Real Estate are our sponsors for the year. So yeah, we have great time over the summer.
I will endorse it.
Will we be speaking later about the revenue side, how much you're bringing in?
Yes,
versus
that's
what-
with the special revenue budget.
And we're talking about that one later, or? what is it?
So in the revenue side, there's a $100,000 transfer. If you look at the green revenue sheets. So last year, the transfer in was 85,000. So we have increased it by 15,000 this year.
So 100, and the total budget request for the department this year is
It,
420?
400. So 25% of that plus is offset by, that's marvelous. Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, the program budget, that is the special revenue budget, is about $500,000. And so from that, they pay all these expenses and some internal expenses, as Stephanie has noted, and plus they make a $100,000 transfer to the general
Against-
fund.
Against
Yep.
the, thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
I get the fire department charged for calls, you know, you could bring the money in.
No, don't do that.
Especially if it's
As
the
a
third
frequent,
one.
as a frequent flyer.
No, actually, I was actually gonna bring that up.
Thanks a lot.
No, but I think we used to, didn't we used to have something like that? Like, I'm talking like, maybe if you trip the wire at 7+, you
Yeah,
start,
we do have an ordinance, and it's not to
sorry, Bob.
quote unquote make money. It's to get compliance with alarm systems that aren't being maintained properly. So if we continue to go to the same place at a certain amount of times, and it's not fixed, I have the ability to say, well, you're gonna pay now every time we come here for the rest of the year.
Yeah, but it's not so much a deterrent, it's not so much meant to be a moneymaker.
Right, it's a deterrent.
It's meant
It's an
to
incentive.
actually get
It's
it
an incentive that, yeah.
working the way it should be working for safety purposes.
Exactly.
Right.
Trust me, it's pretty embarrassing.
So next, on page 167, we have the Goose Rocks Beach Advisory Reserve. Do you want to go to the next slide? So the Goose Rocks Beach Advisory Reserve was established back when the town agreed to the beach use agreement. Yeah, page 167. And the beach use agreement requires that the town set aside funds to maintain their portion of the beach use agreement. And the agreement was $2,000 per property that had signed on to it. So the goal is that we have about $130,000 set aside in reserve. Things that the town is required to do is maintain safety at the beach, maintain education programs, so the brochures, make sure that people are aware of the rules, the signage. And so you can see this is one of our old brochures, but certainly every year we update those with the Beach Use Committee, excuse my voice. And then we post those at each of the public entrances. We have signage at all of the entrances and work with the Beach Use Committee if those need to be amended. Our community safety officers are hired here and they patrol the beach. There you see a decrease because last year we found we had budgeted too many hours, and so we just adjusted the hours to what we thought we would need for the summer. And then we have $6,000 set aside for our water quality testing, so Allison talked about that. We have done Maine Healthy Beach testing for decades at Colony Beach and Goose Rocks Beach. A couple of years ago, we designed a protocol so that we test in the rivers and we do DNA testing every couple weeks, and that when we see bacteria testing is high or we get a positive DNA test, then we go up the rivers to try and ascertain where that is. So in previous years, we had spent more because we were doing all over watershed testing and trying to get a grasp of that. I think that we learned that it's more effective to do in this manner, and so we really focus our testing that way. The paid family medical leave, you can see that it's in all is related to the cost for the salaries and wages. And the expenses, you can see, are for brochures and signage and parking stickers. And also the beach committee has a constant contact subscription, which allows them to send email notices out to all who subscribe. So any monies that are not spent at the end of the year go into the Goose Rocks Beach Advisory Reserve. And if we have a year that we spend more than we had planned to because something needed to be addressed, we can take from the reserve. So we try to maintain the reserve at that $130,000 balance in agreement, but it can be a little higher or a little lower depending on that year.
Or a question, I mean, the money's not big, but under miscellaneous, you haven't budgeted anything for 24 and 25, yet you have relatively significant sums there. What are the types of things that end up in miscellaneous expenses?
Sometimes it deals with additional, usually the big expenses are additional signage. So like when we redid some of the water quality testing signage at the different beach entrances, that was a large expense. The brochures, we have gone away from having them professionally done because we found that we were changing verbiage every year. And so we have them printed locally and do them in-house so that they're a little easier for us to manage. But those tend to be the bigger costs.
Does the DNA testing identify any septic systems that are not working correctly, or is it mostly, wildlife that,
Yeah.
and the rivers?
Do you want to go ahead?
No, what the DNA is specifically targeted for human. So it is indeed looking for human DNA, which would most probably be associated with septic leakage.
So have we found any?
Not yet,
Oh,
nothing
good.
significant.
Good.
I mean, when we did the overall wide watershed testing, what we found is that the majority of our DNA is wildlife. It is mammals, wildlife. And so we have gone away from testing for all animals and just focused on humans because that's really where we're concerned. And we do that when we see an issue. And what our goal is to do the DNA testing further up the river until we find the spot where it is. And then we send people out in the field. So that's our goal.
Yeah, just to clarify, we routinely test at the mouths for human DNA. And then if we find an issue, we move upstream. Yeah.
So did you see any correlation between that and whatever happened with our sewage treatment plant? When all the bacteria died or whatever that was?
It's interesting. There was indeed a spike in the human DNA at the same time period as the mishap at the water treatment plant. And there's actually, John Crowder has done really a wonderful analysis of that. It's written up, and hopefully we can make it available to folks. It was a one-time event, obviously. You make 1 point on a graph, it makes a very straight line. So hopefully we won't have another point on that graph. But certainly, it will be prudent that, God forbid, there is another event at the treatment plant. If something were to cause such an event, we would move quickly to assure we do testing to ensure that there is not a cause of alarm at the beaches.
Right.
I mean, if we do find human DNA, we notify people immediately.
Exactly.
I think the challenge with what happened in the river is that, you know, those at the state level did not see that correlation. It is a coincidence that those two events happened at the same time, but we also did not find that human DNA in the Colony Beach area, which is much closer. So, who knows?
Yeah, right. Thank you.
So the next item is contingency on page 171. Probably I should stop though and have you go to page 169. It's not on our agenda. 69. It's the next page after Goose Rock Beach Advisory Reserve. And the reason why it's not on the agenda is because we haven't funded anything in here in many years. So we have a local circuit breaker program, and if you qualify for the state local circuit breaker program, the town will match you. Several years ago, the state changed its program, and many people no longer were eligible. So we used to fund it at a much higher level, but we had funding left that really carried us for many years because so many fewer people were eligible. So what we realized this past year is we finally are making it down to that, getting closer to that zero level in that account. And we anticipate that we might spend $2,000 over the next year. So that's why we're budgeting this year, and we haven't been budgeting for many years.
Could you explain what that is? I don't know what the circuit breaker program is.
Yeah, so it has to do with your income levels in relationship to the amount of taxes you pay. And so you fill out a form for the state of Maine, and they review, you have to have filled out your tax forms.
Yeah.
That's a challenge for some people who weren't, and just because their income was so low. And then they make a determination, and if you meet their formula criteria, because your percentage of taxes to your income is high enough, they give you a rebate on some of your property taxes, and that comes back, and then we match your amount.
Perfect.
So now if we go to page 171, that is contingency. So the contingency is where we fund things that we, can't foresee coming. So last year, the contingency was much higher because we had funded our salary increases and benefits in here because we were in the middle of a union contract negotiation. Those then, once the new year started, those funds were then transferred to those departments based on the wages that were agreed to. So this year, we have 15,000 in there, so it's much reduced. And that is really just an amount in case something happens mid-year, we're trying to attract somebody, or we find there's an inconsistency in someone's duties. And so it gives us a little leeway in order to adjust wages mid-year if we need to. The accrued liabilities account is again a reserve account, so we budget a certain amount every year and we put it into the liability reserve account. And so when employees are departing, if we have to pay out their vacation time, or if they are retiring and have been here many years, we pay a certain amount of sick time. And so we can take it from that accrued liabilities account, so we're not leaving it unfunded and it's not one year where we get hit. And so, based on the age of our current employees, we only think 10,000 is needed for that. And then we have been budgeting for fuel contingency, and we had it higher a few years ago. Fuel is one of those things that every year it's a guess. And so what we had found over the last few years is we haven't needed to use that. The amount we've been budgeting has been conservative enough in the departments. And 15,000 isn't a lot in comparison to how much fuel we purchase. And it covers not just heating fuel and propane, but also gas and diesel for public works. And so we did take that out this year because we thought we could manage without it. The $50,000 is contingency for the board. And so if the select board have something that happens mid-year that they need additional funding for, that's what the contingency fund is for.
Question, Lori?
Mm-hmm.
You spoke about accrued liabilities. How large is that fund now?
I want to say it's probably around 50 or 60,000.
think it's around that.
Thank you.
And, sorry, because I know you addressed this last week, but I don't remember exactly the explanation of it. So in the lines where you're showing that you have a carryover forward funds, these are unspent funds from the previous year that basically you're applying to this year. Is that-
Right, so when you look at that 85,000 in FY '25, the budgeted number was really 50,
Right,
but that 35,000 bumps it up.
right.
But it was exactly carried forward from the,
Because like roughly it comes out to about 240,000.
Yep.
We looked at all the different departments. So
Yep.
from last year to this year, you underspent by 240,000, right?
yep.
Okay, thank you.
So the last account we're going to review tonight is debt service. And so if you go to your debt service capital tab, you will see all the capital items, and then debt service is nearer the end. And so debt service begins on page 189. And you will see in here the different accounts for each of the debt service. We have an account for principal and one for interest. And then the last page, it shows you our debt service schedule for all the debt we currently have. We have a slide that shows that same information, and I'm gonna let Nicole cover that.
Yep, so on this slide, it shows our debt schedule, our debt payment schedule, showing the annual obligations from 2024 to 2045. The debts that we have are the police building, the Parks and Rec building, seawall and village parcel, radio tower, and our 2 wastewater bonds. And looking at this, the payments, they peak between 2026 and 2029, reaching approximately 1.5 million annually. And then from 2030 to 2039, they remain relatively stable around 1 million per year. And then they drop after 2040, like tapering off towards 2045. And the debt service is part of our capital improvement plan. So by financing these projects through bonds, loans, and leases, it helps lessen the burden on the current taxpayer because we're spreading it out over a longer term.
And if you look on page 192 at the debt service schedule, you'll see when those bonds are maturing. And so we have 2 maturing in 2027, we have 1 maturing in 2028, and we have 1 maturing in 2029. So we have a few maturing shortly, and then the village parcel and wastewater are further out. Do we have any other questions on that?
Lori, have we added any projected debt service that would be paying potentially for something for 2026 that we have to borrow something for?
Yeah, if you go to the, we haven't added it in the budget, but if you go to the purple sheets where we talk about capital, and then after the first couple pages, you'll see our capital improvement plan. And in those, we have, in the future years, you can see each one has a funding source. And so some will say budget, which means the operating budget. Some will say bond and reserve. Sometimes it's a mix of a reserve account. And some will just be bond. You'll see that there are a few that say just bond. But we also have some pie charts that talk about, if you go FY '26 to FY '30, so that's the next 5 years, what we anticipate would be bond, grant, budget, and reserves. But these are just projections on our part. So next week, we will talk about capital. And then we will go over all our capital budget as well as have the outside committees, so like the library will be here, Chems will be here. And we'll talk about social service agencies. But before the budget committee adjourns, a few years ago, the Budget Committee and Select Board approved short-term financing for our ladder truck because our ladder truck costs were increasing faster than our reserve funding could keep up. And so we decided to take out a 5-year period where we would take a short-term loan to do the balance, and we ordered the truck. And we just received the truck recently. And so it's out there in the bay. If any budget committee members would like to take a look at it and see what we invested in, I'm sure the chief would be happy to show you.
Proud papa.
Absolutely. One other thing on that, from the vendor, if we were to order the truck the day it was delivered here, that truck would have cost us $400,000 more.
Wow.
It's a good
So we did the
investment on
right
the
thing
interest.
by investing in the lease purchase, and I certainly appreciate it.
And we got
Because I
our-
am a proud papa.
And we did get our set of Ginzu knives when we
Right,
ordered
that's
when we
right,
did, right?
that's right.
All right.
Any other questions?
Yes, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Move to adjourn,
Okay.
second.
Great. Budget Board is adjourned for another week.
We'd like to just call a 6.3-minute break, and we will reconvene shortly. Let you folks disperse.
You're younger than I thought.
No, I'm going.
Ready? Ready, Freddie?
We are back on the air.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll now commence the Select Board portion of tonight's meeting, having concluded with the Budget Board. Can we first join me in rising for our Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our first point of business is to approve the minutes of the February 27th, 2025 Select Board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Second is our custom. This is the public forum. This is an opportunity for anyone who wants to address the Board of Selectmen with an issue that is not on the agenda. Is there anyone in the audience here? Dave, anybody in TV land?
No hands raised.
Good.
All righty, moving right along. Item number 6. We will continue our meeting with the committees. We are in the process of doing this through all the different committees in town. Tonight, we'll have the Parsons Way Committee and also the Conservation Commission. So first, I believe Luis is here to address us on the Parsons Way Committee.
Louise Spang. So Yanita asked me to put together sort of a history of the Parsons Way Committee and how it was formed and why it was formed. I think I gave her some documents that I thought you might find interesting because many of you, I mean, Sheila might be aware how it was formed, but
It's fascinating. No,
the rest of you guys are
yep,
probably on
it's
the
fascinating.
other side of that. So basically, the committee was formed after a group of Cape Arundel citizens who were concerned about the lack of maintenance down there. They'd kind of been willy-nilly doing it on their own. They had formed a group and called it the Friends of Parsons Way, and they had their own little kitty of money that they used to kind of here and there trim. And I believe what happened was the Conservation Committee might have been formed, and then there was just, it was kind of like they were more laser focused on what was going down by the water, and it kind of upset some people. So at the same time, there was this group of people on Parsons Way that lived down there, as well as the Parsons family, which I'm one of, that just felt like the town had kind of abdicated its responsibility to the maintenance of that, and not really followed the deed like they should have. So the town came together, we formed this committee. The original members were myself, Ann Fales, who used to own the Cape Arundel Inn, which is now Ocean, Rick Griffin, who's sadly passed away, and Barbara Barwise, who's a longtime resident of Goose Rocks, and she has also moved away. The Friends of Parsons Way Fund was liquidated, and that money was given to the town to use for maintenance and bench repairs and replacements. So the mission then and now is to ensure that the town will maintain the parcel to provide an ocean view as stated by Henry Parsons when he gifted the parcel to the town in 1944. So basically trim vegetation yearly, purge shoreline zoning, and prune shrubs and trees as needed. And we have also endeavored to control the invasive to some extent. Obviously, bittersweet's been a huge challenge, and the poison ivy is challenging too, but been working with the highway department to kind of beat that back when needed. And then the other part of it is to maintain the benches and manage the inquiries that come in about memorializing people and getting those plaques installed. And the reason I'm here is because, I mean, yearly there's that maintenance cost, and it's been rising slightly, but I think it's still a very affordable investment in that land. Yep. I think that the town, we've kind of come to a place where before there wasn't a lot of record keeping Some of the benches have been there for many, many years. So there's there's definitely holes in the database of like who bought what, when it was installed. More recently, we have more paperwork, and Yanina has all that. It's now kept at the town office. I kind of facilitate those inquiries, but after it's done, I make sure that the town office has all that paperwork and information they need. And the reason they really need that is because the new contract states that every 10 years, those people should be contacted and asked if they want to keep that plaque on that bench, and then they again have to pay the fee. So that's why it's kind of important that we move forward with a more organized situation. Obviously, we need your support to pay that subcontractor to do the maintenance. And I usually work with the highway department to kind of identify bad spots that need attention and/or benches that need maintenance or repair or replacement, and any plaques that need to be replaced as well. And then the town's also been, as I said, managing those paths that go to the benches because of the poison ivy, which crops up. So my responsibilities on, biannual and annual basis are to inspect the benches and the plaques and signage annually. Last year we had a bunch of damage because of all the storms, and that was the first time I'd ever seen a bench actually get tipped off into the water. So that was unusual, but the highway department got right on it. As I said, I meet with the highway department head to review those concerns. I coordinate the bid process for the yearly maintenance and award that to a subcontractor. I manage the new memorial bench inquiries and other related questions, and I support the intentions of the gift from Henry Parsons. And I don't have any committee members right now. It's just me, because it was Gordon Eyre was on the committee for a while, but he's ill, and then Barbara had left, so it's not the most exciting committee. There's not much going on, so I've just been kind of bumping along on my own.
Well, we're happy to have you.
Yeah.
Yep.
How many benches?
I think there's 18.
Okay.
Actually, there might be 20. I don't have the map with. Maybe I do have the map. We've kind of put a kibosh on installing new benches, just because we didn't want it to get to the point like Marginal Way is, where there's a bench every 10 feet. So what we did was we changed if you want to memorialize somebody, you have to share the bench with other plaques. And people are fairly open to that. That space in this town holds a lot of memories for different reasons for different people. And people have been very open to it, and it's worked out.
So you're on the committee because you are a descendant of
Henry Parsons was my great-great-uncle.
Is there someone, when you decide to move on, that would, from your family, who would be willing to step up? Right?
Yeah, I think for sure my daughter would do it, and she lives in Kennebunkport. Yeah, okay. Or my son Clayton. So, okay. But I know Jamie would. So, any questions?
So your goal is we should try and find you some committee members to help.
It'd be great to have other committee members, simply to so I didn't have to do everything. But again, it's not a huge amount of work, because when we stopped adding benches, there was less inquiries, because that was a huge draw. So every year I probably get 4 inquiries about a plaque, and some people will jump on it and some people won't. And oddly, a lot of people who have a plaque already are adding more plaques for other people in their family, which is great.
Louise, when you contract, what work are you contracting out for?
So basically, they go in, they'll trim down the vegetation to,
okay,
3
so
feet.
they're due, so
Yeah.
so it's not, okay.
Yeah,
Yep,
and
got
they'll
it.
take any, dead wood off the trees and that kind of thing. And that's worked out pretty well.
And this stretches from
So
the
roughly,
Colony Beach out along by St. Anne's
a
and then
little
out
bit
to...
further past Colony Beach, and then all the way to, there's spaces that are privately owned, as you know, like St. Anne's, and then there's some residents have homes. And it goes just about down to the beach at Bushes, where the Bushes live.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Well, thank you.
You're
No,
welcome.
it is an asset to the town.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a special spot.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank
Louise.
you.
Thank you. And item number 7, the Conservation Committee. Robin Phillips is with us.
They arrived just in time.
I told them not to come till 7:30.
Hi.
Hi, Robin, how are you?
Kennebunkport. How are you? Been a while? Well, the Conservation Commission, I don't know if you want to ask me questions, or if you want me to just
I
give you an
think the
overview.
goal is just to tell us, the board, just a little bit about who you are, why you exist. And not
When you
not
figure that
forever,
out,
we're
let
on
me
a
know.
time limit, but I mean, you know.
Who you are as a commission.
As a commission, not you.
Not you personally.
Once upon a time, a boy fell in love with a girl.
And then what your needs, what you see.
Well, I'm not exactly sure when the Conservation Commission was formed. Do you know, Lori?
I don't, it was here when I got here. So.
Yeah, so it's been around a while, and, what we have personally focused on in my last 3 years, and Susan's too, are, we did pesticide testing, we got approved for that. We've done that for 2 years. We have cleared out the invasive species from the right-of-way to Goose Rocks, so now the lilacs are back. We have done 3 public outreach events, 2 in coordination with Kennebunk, just for education and, environmental. I think this past year's was on water quality in the Kennebunks. And it's a public thing at the Kennebunk Town Hall. It was, well attended. I think it's a little early in January, but that's what they did. 1 year, we got a grant for, I think, $26,000 for dune restoration, and an intern who also helped at the Conservation Trust. And we planted, I can't remember, thousands of plugs, and then there was still money left. So we were able to do that some more last year. We put in a garden at the library, native species garden, small garden behind the library. And I'd say that's about it. There are a lot of things charged to us on the comprehensive plan that we really have no members, very few members. We have, a couple, but it seems hard to get members, and I believe you guys sent out maybe you could do that again.
Yep.
But, we've been charged with, and if you look up what the Conservation Commission, the state wants you to do if you have one, it's not required. I thought it was, but it's not. It's a big list. It's, research and planning and all kinds of things. And when we asked 3 years ago for a select board liaison, but the current, Mr. Weston, I don't think they could spare it, or they didn't want one, but now we're in the comp plan, and Galen came to one of our meetings, and there is a lot charged to us that without a little more help, maybe from the town, or, if we had a whole bunch of members, but it's a lot. If you look at our comp plan, it's, I don't know, at least 20 things. So that's something, I know Galen was interested in helping us, but, it's, everybody's pretty busy. So we could use another push to get a few more members if possible. And Susan did an excellent explanation of the common names for the pesticides that showed up during the testing, and that was sent to you guys. I don't think it made the agenda, but you have it now. So I think Alan asked us.
That's what we asked the last time. Yep.
Yeah, so those are all the common, like if you go to Agway and you see something, you can, it's an explanation, and so that was a lot of work. Thank you, Susan. And it does make it a little easier, and I've asked Yanina, and I think she's going to put that on a link so people can access that information, and as well as the pesticide testing results. And I'm hoping we can do that for another year. And I guess that's what we've been up to.
This information might be good to put in the spring newsletter too.
Yeah, I would
Make an
love- yeah,
article
yeah,
out of it.
Yeah, it's, just so people know, and, it's pretty hefty amount of things that are running into the the, you know, the stormwater.
No,
So-
I think that's why we asked last time. I think
Yeah.
it would be helpful. You had done that presentation, which I
Yeah.
thought was
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
But for the layman out there,
Yeah,
knowing what the brand name is can also help them decide whether to buy or not buy, or
Right.
understand what's going on. So I think it's.
and some things are not available. A lot of things that showed up are only available through professional applicators, so
Yeah.
those aren't on that list because you can't get them. But it's interesting, it just tells us, you know, gives us a little bigger picture of what's happening out there.
And you had also said last time you were here that you thought you still had some money to do some more
We-
testing in the water?
Yes,
You
we
had some
do.
money, right?
But, you know, we ran, so what happens, you know, the fiscal year doesn't start till July. So we, you know, we couldn't test the first year until because the money's not available.
Right.
So then we had that horribly rainy summer that was bad. We got in
Yep.
2 tests, but we had money left so we could get an earlier test. So we still have some money left so we can get an early test, because that's when a lot of things are being applied. So, and we're hoping to add pyrethrum testing this year if possible, because that's just another, that is quite harmful to bees, and it's organic, but really it's quite a harmful pesticide. So we're hoping that can happen, and we can continue with that.
So that is an additional $3,000 request that Conservation Commission is looking for to add to the budget.
For the permethrin.
For the
It's-
testing,
Yeah,
the,
for the- yeah.
So
to
that's in
add to
this,
that.
that's in the budget?
That's in this,
That's in,
It's a whole nother bottle size. and
It is
it's-
not
it's-
currently
oh, it's not
Yeah.
currently, okay.
It's not currently where?
in the budget. We
Okay.
have the same funding we did last year.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So if you guys are interested in continuing that, I just wanted to make you aware of
Okay.
that.
Okay.
A few people did request that, you know, from the beach.
Yeah.
They were interested in doing that.
So Robin, how often do you think we should be testing the water? Like what would you say would be a good rule of thumb for us to be looking? Like I know you said, like, for example, we had that one rainy season, so obviously there's some parameters of when you
There's a
don't want
lot,
to do
and
it.
last year was dry, so it
Yeah.
was, you know, we were, you know, rains, we get on the phone, let's go, you know, it was hard, but we did end up getting 3 tests last year, and it's nice to have them spaced out, because what's applied in the spring are usually pre-emergence and things like that, and then, you know, there's different things applied throughout the year, so it's kind of nice to be able to catch the different
yeah, but
things that are, you know, being applied. But, you know, this testing would cover, I think, 4 tests, the funding we have, I think you could get 4 tests a year. It's pretty expensive. It costs $330 just to mail it.
Yep.
So I think we've had to go with weather because we've had a couple strange, but it would be nice to get something in May, which I think we got one in June last year. And then, you know, almost like a monthly, and then in September, things kind of slow down quite a bit with a lot of the applications of things. So, you know, if we could get 4, that would be great. And, you know, we're getting a trend now, we're getting some data, and the whole purpose of this is data, really. So, we are getting that, so being able to see trends, et cetera, you know, with 1 year, first year, we only got, I think, 1 test because it rained, like, you have to have, ideally, which hasn't been ideal, of course, you have to have 10 to 14 days of dry weather, and then a nice moderate, like, inch or 2 of rain. Well, you know, it hasn't been that way. It's either been a deluge, but still, we did take advantage of some of that just to get some testing done, because, you know, once the money's gone, you know, you have to use it. So, but ideally, it would be nice to get 1 a month, starting May, June, July, August, September.
When you and Susan, if you put an article together, could
Mm-hmm.
you specify where you were taking the samples? in
Yes,
it?
that was
Because
in my
oh,
report.
That was in the one that you
Yeah,
did for
yeah,
us,
it-
right?
all the sites, there's 4
Yeah.
sites.
Right.
There's 2 at Goose Rocks,
Yep.
Yeah.
1 on New Bedford Road, 1 back on Wildwood in the back there, 1 at the Atlantic Hall, there's a catch basin there, and then 1 on Ocean
Ocean
Avenue. I think it's 187, across from that, it's like a pipe that sticks out of the wall. So those are we tried to cover the, you know, the basic areas of town. So it's probably good to keep the same testing areas.
Yeah.
Yep.
But, you know, that could be, well, the way we picked them was,
We went out with the highway department, Steve Hanna and I, and we spent a half a day. And once they got the concept, like, we're trying to get as much catch, biggest area in one outflow. So they were able to help us with that. And I will say, you know, in going in the marsh behind Goose Rocks, those pipes are plugged, you can't even find them. So that would be nice to possibly investigate, because you know how the water doesn't drain out. So there are some problems back there. You know, and it does flood at Goose Rocks quite a bit, so if it can't drain, because we went out in the swamp and couldn't find the ends, and the highway department couldn't either, so there is some kind of drainage situation going on there.
And also for your article, if you can, for the lay people, could you give us some insight to like the shelf life of these? Or is it not the shelf life, but the half-life? Yep, that's what I was looking for, half-life.
Of some of the things that are coming up.
Yeah, of some of
Yeah,
the things,
of all of them.
just to give the layperson an idea
Yeah.
of what we're finding, and then how long these things hang out would be helpful, just for people to understand.
I know that Roundup stays in the ground for 1,000 days. It's a long
That's
time.
I was curious, I didn't see Roundup called out here, did we, is it,
No,
is
but
it part-
I just happen to know that one quite well.
but is it part of the 24D, or is it the atrazine, or one of those?
Yeah, there's so many of them that kind of overlap. I think that. Could you please go to the microphone?
Yeah,
I'll share with Robin.
In coming up with some of the common names, I'm Susan Kagan, for
Hi,
anybody that
Susan.
doesn't know me, hi. We just tried to pick, we took sort of the areas where the same pesticides kept coming up, or where the greatest concentrations
Right.
kept coming up. So this is by no means an exhaustive list. Many other chemicals were identified, but either in lesser amounts or not on a recurring basis. You know, you can just go down so many rabbit holes with all the details.
Yeah,
And
I
so
think-
we just kind of cherry picked off the
I
top.
think what you did is right, because what we're trying to do is not overwhelm,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of people there's many people that don't understand a lot of this. So it would, you know, if we could just, what you did is point to the stuff that is tripping the limits, and then what's, like you provided us, what's the common name?
And there
some
are
more
so
information
many.
about
Yeah.
how this shelf life, just so that people understand, hey, I put this application on my lawn or whatever, and.
It doesn't just go away.
Well, I think
Yeah.
that's just you know, that's when we
Well,
had talked about educating.
And we're not scientists, of course. I mean, without
Right.
Steve Hanna helping with the data, it would have been very hard to organize it the way that Robin presented it before. But we want everybody to get some sense of it.
Right.
And I think one thing that Robin has talked about, you know, as we've discussed, you know, how to make this more effective going forward, if we can continue to get the funding to do it, is it's our understanding that our town is the only town in the state of Maine that's doing this testing, this particular type of testing. And I think that probably some of our neighbors in York County, our coastal neighbors, would be very interested once they have access, if we share this access, and I don't know why we wouldn't, with them, because the more testing that we do, the less expensive it gets. If you had other communities helping to share with mailing costs or buying the bottles or, you know, whatever.
Well, the tests themselves come down the more you send.
Right. So we could, you know, potentially have some kind of a consortium of coastal towns, you know, within our county. And I would anticipate that people would be interested in knowing once they understand what we're finding right here.
Okay.
So that would be another thing to think about.
And how many members are on the committee?
You're looking at them.
There's just the two.
Well, and that's not entirely fair to say. I mean, we have, which doesn't seem to be really difficult for us, we often have people who want to volunteer on our projects. When we put in the little native shade garden behind the library, lots of people were interested and helped us dig and weed and do things and keep it watered. But there are just not as many people who want to commit to going to a meeting and, you know, doing a certain amount of other types of work. And I think that ebbs and flows, and probably any of the committees would say the same thing. And I just think that we're kind of in a bit of a trough right now. So yes, we would love some help in trying to find some members. And they don't have to know a lot of things. I think people kind of get scared off because, well, I don't know about this, or, you know, we learn as we go, for sure.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are we excused?
You
Yes.
can go back
Thank
to your
you.
seats.
The big star, big gold star.
Can you bring Eric?
You passed the test.
So, moving on to item number 8, Woodard and Kern are with us to give us an update on the Wambi Beach, the Ocean Avenue Resilience Project. As you'll remember, the town is putting together the materials, designs, and the permitting work so that we can apply to the folks in MEMA, which is the main emergency management agency, for a hazard mitigation grant. And there's been a bump or a dune, so we'll hear a little bit about where we are and what the implications are. Hi, and welcome.
That's right. Thanks, John. Good evening. My name is Caitlin Soor. I'm a project engineer, project manager and civil engineer with Woodard and Curran, and I'm here tonight with my colleague Barry Sheff. As you said, we're here to just give an update on this project. We'll go to the next slide. And actually, let's jump back one and look at the agenda here.
Dave,
I
I'm
don't
good.
have an agenda. This is the first slide I have.
Oh,
I am forwarding you another one.
Okay, it'll take a couple minutes.
Yep, I hear you.
no worries. So, yeah, is there anything you wanted to say, Lori?
I was going to say that they have been, while Dave is getting that together, we have been working with Woodard and Kern through the hazard mitigation grant application. And Woodard and Kern, as you'll remember, you guys took some of the resiliency money so that they could do the final design work and start on the permitting, which was a requirement of that hazard mitigation grant. So we have applied. We applied in January. We received word back from the state last week that there were some missing pieces and that their desire for the verbiage we used in our grant application had changed since January. And so we worked to revamp that information, and Woodard and Curran had to redo a report or two. And we resubmitted the information today to the state MEMA office. I had a conversation with the hazard mitigation officer last week about the potential for funding. She explained that she has available currently $5.2 million in one of the funds, and that we were her, quote, big project that she wanted to see funded, and that she had monies available for us.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. You can jump to the next slide, please. So I have a fairly brief presentation tonight. The goal is really just to bring you up to speed on what we've been up to, give a little bit of an update on where the permitting stands and how that's contributed to the design advancing and kind of where we are today. Next slide, please. So just to refresh your memory, this project is along Ocean Avenue near Walker's Point and Wambi Beach. It's about an 1,100 linear foot stretch of roadway that is subject to flooding, and the goal of the project is to elevate the roadway to improve resilience to flooding. Barry was here last year in April to present several alternatives to the board, and the alternative that was selected to be moved forward was an alternative that raised the roadway elevation to a minimum of 14 feet and then had a wave wall along Wambi Beach, the top of which was at elevation 17. So since that time, we've been working on advanced. Yep.
Can we just point out that that is a datum that's not sea level. So when people hear 17 feet, they mustn't think of a 10-foot tide and saying we're going 7 feet above that. It's really 5 feet less than that if you're talking sea level. So I think it's important for people just to hear that. If you want to associate anything you hear on feet today to what a tide chart would say, you need to subtract 5 feet. Is that fair?
Yeah, and thank you for mentioning that.
Good.
I know when we presented for Head of the Harbor, we talked kind of in the language that you're mentioning, so that's exactly
That's
right.
what people think, you know.
Yeah.
But unless you're buying a home, and then you think the other way, so it's all wonderful. But if you live by the sea.
Yep. And on that same datum, the base flood elevation of the Atlantic Ocean is 15 feet, and on the Lake of the Woods side, it's 11.3. So the alternative that was selected would provide resilience against the 100-year storm event plus 1.5 feet of sea level rise, which is what the Maine Climate Council recommends. So in December, we had a pre-application meeting with DEP to introduce them to the project and map out the permitting path. You can jump to the next slide, please. And so at that meeting, we discussed the fact that there are 2 coastal sand dunes mapped within the project area, which you can see on this aerial image here. One is to the east of Walker's Point there, and one is to the west, so at the head of Sandy Cove and then along Wambi Beach. And what this means is that, coastal sand dunes are a protected resource, and there's a DEP chapter 355 that dictates what, the type of activities that can occur in sand dunes. And in that rule, there's language that prohibits new seawalls from being constructed within a coastal sand dune. So I'll show you in a little bit a plan that shows, the previous design had the wave wall at Wambi Beach, which per these rules would not be permitted. So the kind of funny thing is that you can actually raise the road and have that be exempt from permitting, so long as you're not building a structure that goes above the road elevation, and that all you're doing is really putting in what is needed to structurally support the road. That exemption, which is what we used on the Pure Road Causeway project, applies to the road only, so it doesn't apply to parking. It wouldn't apply to the wave wall, so it would be limited to just the road. So since that meeting, you can jump to the next slide. So let's actually talk about the original design here. So the original design, which this is what we initially presented to DEP and what you all had seen last April, included raising the elevation of the road to a minimum of 14 feet. And the area that we're looking at on the screen here, so this is east of Walker's Point. So if you're driving in an easterly direction and you go over the hill there and you're coming down the hill to Wambi Beach, that's the area that we're looking at here. Where it says parking, that's where the existing 90-degree parking is today at Wambi Beach. So what we were proposing originally was to reconstruct that parking, but raise everything up. In this location, we were raising the elevation of the road to 16, and then the wave wall, the top of the wave wall was gonna be at 17. And again, that was providing resilience for that 100-year storm event plus 1.5 feet of sea level rise. And beyond the wave wall, which you can see is pointed out there, it's kind of that thick line, there would be a slope of riprap down to meet existing grade. And so because of this sand dune mapping, we've had to tweak the design, and if you can jump to the next slide, please. So this is what the revised design looks like. And essentially what this does is we've eliminated the wave wall, but we've raised the elevation of the road to be at elevation 17. So it's achieving the same resilience goal as the original design. And I'll show you in a moment on the next slide, there's a section that kind of helps tell this story a little bit better and visualize it. But essentially, we've had to eliminate the 90-degree parking because that's not permitted within this sand dune area. So you can see where it says safety shoulder, the roadway would be a little bit widened there, but that 90-degree parking is no longer there. And then to the west of that, we've added 7 striped on-street parking spaces to make up for that parking loss. And so rather than having the wave wall, there will just be a riprap slope that goes up to the edge of the roadway. And if you jump to the next slide, we can look at a section that kind of helps tell that story a little bit better. So this is a section through the roadway. So the previous plans we were looking at, that's plan view, and then now we're looking at, okay, if we're standing on the road and looking to the east, the Atlantic Ocean is to the right, and the Lake of the Woods is to the left. And so you can see here the original design is shown in black. You can see the existing roadway is pointed out there in that dashed gray line. So the existing elevation of the road, there's a low point at the Wambi Beach area of elevation 10-ish. So the previous design was raising the roadway surface to about elevation 16, and then the top of that wave wall, which you can see on the right beneath that red hatch, would be at elevation 17. So the revised design is shown in red, and we've elevated the road to 17 in the Wambi Beach area and have that safety shoulder, and then rather than have the wave wall, we have a riprap slope that will go down similar to what's there today. And the riprap will be sized, based on the tide and the wave energy. There'll be really big, heavy stone rocks that will be sized to not move. That's what they're there for. So that's really the main difference. But as I mentioned, the revised design still achieves that same resilience goal because we've raised the roadway elevation to 17. You can switch to the next slide, please. So here we've just tried to compare the two. So on the leftmost column, you can see 4 of the different kind of critical components of the project that we've evaluated. And then the second column is the original design, and then the one on the right is the revised design. So as I've said, the level, the flood resilience is the same in both options. So you have the FEMA BFE of 15 and then 1.5 feet of sea level rise by the year 2050. So that's the same in both. And then the impacts to private property, there was a slight increase with the revised design, and that was largely due to adding that on-street parking and raising the road and having to kind of grade a little bit more. So I would say, minor impacts there. And then the impacts to natural resources were actually reduced, and that's mostly because of the revisions to the parking at Wambi Beach. The limits of where we're grading have been pulled in, so that is a benefit as well. And then the conceptual opinion of probable project cost for the revised design is $3 million. The original design was 3.2, and that's largely due to the elimination of the wave wall. There's a little bit more fill, but a little bit of the less riprap at Wambi Beach, so overall the cost has gone down. And that's really all I have for you.
Great.
I have a question.
Yes.
So with the new design and the inability to have a wave wall, we lose the parking, we kind of got the road by the water shuts out a little bit more so people can pull over. Can you put a guardrail or something there, or is this going to be like if you go too far down the rip wall, you go and into the sea?
Oh, yeah, there will be a
Okay,
guardrail there.
So putting a guardrail or something isn't what?
A seawall.
A seawall, okay.
He's just wondering if a guardrail is a structure, and are they gonna allow that?
That's a good question. My gut is saying that would be okay. I can't imagine that they wouldn't want us to put a guardrail there.
It's open,
Yeah.
Okay. So at 17 feet, how do if I look at the one that had your red line on the cross-section?
Yep.
So if I look at the current road, then if I go to 17, how much higher? It's not 17 above how do I get that perspective from the current road to 17?
Yeah, so the
12?
The low point is around 10. But yeah, it's sort of, 12, 11, 10 is the existing elevation. And then we're going to elevation 17. So there's.
So we're going up
5 to 7 feet.
A full car.
Can you just talk about where the low elevation points are?
Yeah, if you don't mind pulling up one of the plan views, if you can jump back. Yeah, I'm gonna walk up here. Is that all right?
You gotta take the mic with you.
Okay.
Can you get it out?
So the low point is over here, and you can see, so this starts to slope up, and then you're coming down. You can see this line here, that's the proposed 17 contour. And so existing, it's hard to see the numbers of the existing, but this is probably 12, and then it goes down to a low point here, and then starts going back up.
So are we going to go down and then back up, or are we 17 blending in, feathering into that hill?
Yeah, so it's 17, and then it goes, I can't read.
There is an incline
What if there's
there,
a-
so it
Yep.
probably will meet the incline.
Yeah, this looks like, I can't read the numbers either, but here your contour is
There's
coming down.
Yeah.
And then you're flat across, and then you slowly go, and it goes up,
Yeah.
it looks like pretty
Yeah.
steep up there as it meets it.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I mean,
we're-
right here,
But
maybe a
we're
little
right
bit.
here, so I guess what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get an idea of, two things. One is, do we go up and then we're coming back down and then we
No,
go
no,
up again?
no,
no,
or
no, no.
we're-
I would assume,
It's a boat.
I'm assuming, let's say this was 17. Let's just say, for right now, this was 17, and this was, at some point, you would stay at 17 all the way across here until you found the next 17.
Right,
I mean, you might contour it a little bit, but I would assume they basically don't.
we're lifting the low portion here, so it'll just be a more gradual slope to meet existing grade up here, if that makes sense. Like, it
Zero-
goes
zero
down,
lift
and we're
here,
gonna
it just
bring
gets
it up.
Larger and larger the lift, and then it goes back up to zero.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get an idea of, so I
What's
see
your
this.
concern? What's your concern?
My concern is where are we puddling water and where are we shooting water to? So for
Water
example.
all slopes back.
Yeah, right.
Look at it, it all slopes back into the marsh.
Right,
Yeah.
but when I was looking at, say, for example, this new parking area, there's a driveway right across the street from it. So this right here, there's a driveway, if I looked at one of your graphs, there was a driveway across wherever the new parking spot was. And so is that 17, or, I'm just trying to understand where we're puddling, are we shooting all the water back, to the wet area? Are we dispersing water? I don't have a feel for the road, John, and I'm just trying to get that feel.
I think the
again,
concern
these
is about
contours,
the impact to private properties.
Right.
Again, here, these are sloping away, is that it's kind of pointing uphill. So the water's gonna slope here, and then it's gonna go over here. Here, it's gonna kind of just sort of go a little bit gently that way, and up there, it's kind of bowed, so that's kind of interesting. You got kind of the high piece, and then it slopes away.
Yeah, so essentially, yes,
So
exactly.
go
You're
to,
worried about the stormwater now. You're saying when a big wave comes.
no. So in general, when we start creating, so, yes, so I'm worried about rainwater on a surface, where is it rolling to when we get a deluge? And, I was just looking at, you gave us a picture in our packet, and it shows, a nice picture of Wambi Beach, and then there's a house right there on the non-ocean side. And so I'm just, and so then if I look at where you were putting your parking area, there was a house right across the street from that. So I was just trying to get an idea. If you're telling me it's sloping in, it's to Lori's, my question really goes back to Lori's, how Lori clarified it, is I'm just looking at impacts to private property. Because if we're going up 5 to 7 feet, I can't get a visual. I've looked at this, and I apologize, but I can't get a visual of, what are we doing to the properties on the other side? Are they gonna be they're gonna be raising their driveways?
This is a high spot right here, isn't it, Barry? What am I
Yeah,
looking at?
that-
This is the high spot. I mean, the contours point upstream, basically. So this, this is a low point. It's a high low. So this is the high point right here, which is right by your driveway.
Yeah, so I think
you have to-
I'm just asking for one, Barry, to take a look at it and to maybe help us understand, how where we're putting the parking lot and where's the water flowing, from a deluge storm,
So
where's it
some of the
going?
pictures that Mary Beth's referring to are These were relative to Pete Slavinsky's
That's right.
designation of the sand dunes and
Yep.
lobes, in case they had questions about that.
Okay.
But I'd just like it head of the harbor where the concerns were about impacts to private property, especially drainage, and about people's access to the road. I think that, you know, we just have concerns about that and want to
Yeah.
make sure we're addressing that.
I mean, and the other thing, are we just talking east of Walker's Point to where you start beyond the beach, or is this also gonna go on the Sandy Cove side?
Yeah,
too?
so there are two, it does extend to the other side of Sandy Cove. That portion of the design has not changed from what we shared with you previously. So we're focused on this
Okay.
area because this is where we had the wave wall and the
Wave wall,
sand
correct.
dune. And I would just say that drainage is something that we're always considering, and the area that we're raising the road the greatest, I believe that the impacts are retained in the right-of-way. So when we talk about impacts to private properties, we're really just talking about temporary grading, really, potentially a little bit of riprap, perhaps, but there's not going to be, you know, for head of the harbor, that was a very different scenario where we're not going to have those like steep driveway concerns here, because where we're making those changes near the driveways, it's not going to be as significant as that 5 feet at that where we're going from the low point.
Yeah, I think if you can just, maybe when you're coming back with the more designs and stuff and you're digging into it more, you can just give us some visuals, because like across from Sandy Cove, when we were out there during the storm, there was all the rocks thrown into those people's driveway right across the street. So that's a surge right there. And if we're not able to do the wave walls, you know, we will be throwing some settlement over. I just, you know,
It's way up there.
yeah,
This
it's
is
way up there.
This is way above any surf activity. You're way up there.
Well, that
That's all
actually-
down in here.
Well,
The surf-
Sandy
the s-
Cove.
The surf is down here, because
Right.
this is actually Walker's Point, so
Right.
that's actually land. So it's not, that's.
Right
not
here.
surf.
This is right before Walker's Point,
No,
or
that is Walker's Point.
right in Sandy Cove. So when we walk down there after the
not-
storm,
That's
Still,
not
it's
Sandy
still
Cove,
west,
that's
I think it's
Lundy
still
Beach.
west of Walker's, but at any rate, it's up. It's up. It's high here.
I think what would.
That
what
is,
would-
that is in that area. Mary Beth is correct that there was, where the drainage pipes had blown out and where we were having issues, there was a lot of
Well, that's
washover of rocks.
That's down the other side though, right?
It's
over
up
this
before, if I'm going towards Bush's compound,
Right.
it's on the left prior and to the right. You know that
Exactly, but-
vacant area?
But you've dipped down. That's that second sand dune or dune area. I hate calling it sand dune,
but that's
anyway.
what we're raising. We're raising the road there too, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's not shown on this
But
map.
that's not.
No,
No,
because
but that's
that is not being affected by the NERPA designation. So we were focused on where the wave wall was for
Right.
this
That's what
interpretation.
this is right here.
Right, that's the wave wall. So my comment is just in general for this area where we're raising the road, same as like to Lori's clarification of what I'm trying to say, same as what we did as pier, you know, we're going 5 to 7 feet, we're impacting driveways. I just want to make sure that we're not funneling hard stream water down into residents' properties, creating their own little pools. I can't see it from, you know, where we are today. I'm sure I can see it when you guys continue on with your work.
Yeah, I'm sure we can provide better visuals to help you
Yeah.
picture that. I will say the revised design, so the previous design that was the preferred alternative that was selected last year was raising the road here to elevation 16. So when we're talking about this revised design,
Yeah.
we're going from 16 to 17. So it is, you know, essentially consistent with the previous design where we're filling a lot. The really major change is just elimination of the wave wall, and that's the reason for raising the road. But your point is well taken, and I think we can provide better visuals to help you kind of see what we're talking about.
Well, yeah, it's not just, it's the visuals, but it's also the, make sure that we are, we're confident where we're running the water.
Totally. Yep.
And maybe the property, specific properties that might be impacted by the raising of this wall, road, just so those people can have a sense that they may have to raise their driveways or things like that. This isn't the pier road situation, because these homes are more spread out, there aren't as many, but I think we should just be conscious of whose property is gonna be impacted.
Well, the houses are further away
Diff-
from the road.
Well, there
so
aren't as
there's-
many.
yeah.
There aren't as-
And then the area where you showed that new parking area, that's right across from a driveway. So I didn't know, I mean, I know when people are there parked in front of the bushes area, you know, it's a little, people are parking, looking, walking, and then you go around that corner, and if we're gonna have another parking, and then there's a driveway, somebody's driveway literally across the street. So I don't know what we're taking into consideration for traffic, but I was a little concerned when I saw that, just for where the area was, for line of sight, people pulling out, people riding bikes, walking.
Yeah, and I know Lori had shared some thoughts on the parking location too, so that's something that we'll continue to further look at.
Yeah, I mean, this is a new idea to try and address the parking that we'd be missing, but we haven't run it through police or Public Works really through yet to see if there are safety concerns.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I think it looks,
I just want to point out that Lori did say that I was right, just that.
I heard that.
Yeah.
I heard that.
In
I
case
was
you
trying to
missed,
ignore it, but
in case you missed it,
I
I
did
wanted
hear
to make sure that hit the
Well,
minutes.
you notice I was very quiet after that.
Because his mouth was open. What?
Mary Beth was right, no way.
Laurie, any sense of when we might hear from Maine, for the grant?
We gotta submit it first.
No, she said they submitted it today.
I submitted it in January. We've resubmitted the amended application
Today.
today.
There was some verbiage that had to be changed.
That was submitted today, right?
Yeah.
Yep, and so Christine, who is the hazard mitigation officer, is going to review it again. I had to sign a commitment letter as well, saying that we would have our match by July 1st. So I'm imagining within the next few weeks, we should hear something back from her.
Good.
And then maybe we would start construction or doing this, when do you think?
Well, we are still dealing with bureaucracy at the state and federal level, so my guess is that if we move through, that there will be some other processes. We'll need to get all our permitting in place. I don't know if you guys want to give an update on where you are with permitting. Then we will have to get the bid documents ready, put it out to bid, sign a contract with the state for the funds. And then I'd say construction earliest would be
2028.
In the year 25.
I'm waiting for Barry to answer.
What's our match on this one?
25%.
25%?
Yeah, I think our goal would be to have bid-ready documents probably sometime in the fall.
Okay.
To have the document, then to start the permitting process, or to,
No, for it to go out to bid.
Bid.
so through the permit process by the fall? Good, excellent, wow.
Yeah, I think, like I said, the NERPA permitting should be an exemption, and then we'll have to do Army Corps permitting. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. We're good? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know you guys have a long trip, you are released.
Not that far,
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, last but far from least, item 9, we're considering a road association agreement with Beaver Pond, Summer Breeze, and Prescott. As you folks have read in your packet, this is consideration of the town for use of those roads for emergency access. And one thing I do want to note, and I think we probably know that the document we have in our packet is in essence a first presentation. This is a working document, and it's a starting point for discussions this evening.
Yeah, so from this, I wanted to just get something in front of you so that you could start to absorb this, because we'll have to decide soon about putting it on the warrant. So we did get feedback from the organizers of the road, who have been organizing this on their behalf. And so I did submit that to the town attorney. I was able to talk to her this evening around 5 o'clock. And so I did get feedback from her, which I'm going to send out to the residents. We also are working on two exhibits, Exhibit A and Exhibit B now. Exhibit A will show the roads that are involved in the association, and Exhibit B will show where the drainage work will really be done. And so Eric is working on those, and then once I have that package, I'll send it out to them for additional feedback, so that we're hoping by your next meeting, we'll have a final agreement to bring to you.
Great.
I don't know, are there any questions to the board on what we've seen here?
I don't have any questions.
No, I thought
I mean,
the-
it still sounds like it's a work
Yeah,
in progress.
Yeah,
The
seems they,
devil's in the details, obviously, when the final
You
work
guys-
comes in, but
yeah.
the general thrust seems to be in the right direction, right? I mean, yeah.
Kate wants to.
Kate,
Kate Bauer-Burke, Summer Breeze Lane, and I'm involved, part of the team working on behalf of the residents there. And certainly, your town attorneys have been very busy. We've had not one, not two, but three separate drafts, and we've, as Laurie said, given comment back. I'm looking forward to hearing what the attorneys and your comments are coming back. And we agree on this concept here. I think we'll say that. The residents back there certainly want to help the town. I want to correct one little sort of misapprehension. At the last meeting, as it was presented and as it's memorialized in the minutes, it seems to imply that it's we, the residents, who have come to the town, approached and asked for this. It's exactly the opposite. The town approached us, and we are happy to work with the town. First of all, I wanted to get it out there correctly, since it is memorialized in the minutes you just approved. And secondly, it actually has legal considerations, as we talk about, for good and valuable consideration. I think having that properly, and as Laurie said, I noticed I put something in the document, or in our comments going back. But we're very hopeful that this is going to work, and we certainly want to help the town and our fellow residents there be able to be safe.
So I just want to clarify that when I said that, my memory of the events was that after the January 24 storms, that, you know, there were representatives who came forward to talk about, you know, issues with the road and the concern about its use. And I thought that there was value in that, in us coming to an agreement. So certainly, I think the town is interested in working with the neighbors in order to have an access point from the public as well, so that, you know, both sides are treated fairly.
Right, no, I agree that, as you said, after that meeting discussing that, you approached us and we are more than happy to cooperate. So, okay.
Thanks.
And any other questions about what you've seen in there, or you haven't seen our comments back, but hopefully we'll be able to get this all worked out, get the language all agreed to.
when would, this would have to go to the June
Yes.
warrant? So
Yeah.
when would we have to have this resolved?
You really need to have it resolved by your next meeting.
Okay,
Okay,
Good.
okay.
good.
Thank you.
We'll look forward
Thank
to
you.
your comments back.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Item number 10 is for donations. We'll just group these together. There are 4 of them. There's a $250 donation from Linda and Robert Wall towards the Nurses General account, a $1,000 donation from Atlantic Firemen's Education Association towards the Emergency Fuel Fund, a $1,000 donation from the Goose Rocks Beach Fire Company towards the nurses' account, and a $1,250 donation also from Goose Rocks Beach Fire Company to the Emergency Fuel Fund.
With much appreciation.
And first,
Second,
any discussion other than to
just
be-
to say great,
you.
thank you to
Thank
the
you.
fire
Thank you.
departments, companies.
And other business. David,
I have no other business tonight.
and, oh, I'm sorry, Mary Beth,
None.
I have nothing.
Nothing
Yeah.
here.
All right,
I have a couple of things. I'm just gonna pass this down.
Yeah.
Mary Beth had texted me earlier today, just trying to get clarification on the resiliency funding. So I tried to spell it out. So this year, the year we're in is in FY '25. So we did have an appropriation for our special projects resiliency funding to the tune of 450,000. And so the question was, what have we already committed? So we have committed 140,000 towards the dune restoration project that was completed last fall. We ended up authorizing Woodard and Curran to help us with the hazard mitigation grant and finalize that design. And that was that amount of funding. And then we have 74,000 towards the head of the harbor design that we started working on. So that would leave a balance of about 148,000. We are expecting to get reimbursements. So we have been told by FEMA that that our request, our application has been accepted. It has gone through all the approval processes and it is entered into the system, which should mean that we should receive funding. Of course, all those people we were dealing with no longer work there. And so we haven't received the money, but we are in hopes they would come. So we would get 75% from FEMA and we would get 15% from the state on the dune restoration. We have a grant on the head of the harbor, so we should get 50% of the expenditure back. If we received all those reimbursements, we would be back up around 311,000 as a balance. And then we are requesting in FY26 $715,000 because we have a match on this project, the Wanby project that we're talking about. On this hazard mitigation funding, there's no state match, it's just federal and town. So they would cover 75%, and so we have estimated our match at 800,000. So if we put in the 715 that's requested, and we need 800, that would leave a balance in FY26 of 226,000.
Assuming we get the reimbursements.
Correct.
Assuming we get the reimbursement.
Correct. But that gives you a sense of where we are. Is
But-
that helpful, or?
If we don't get the reimbursements, then we're basically flat. We're just,
We're
we have
negative.
nothing for next year's resiliency budget.
Well, we would have 148 plus the 715 minus 800, we would still have some funds, not as much. We would still have a positive balance.
Oh, I'm sorry, do I understand that if we get the 120, yeah, actually, we get 150, let's say, from the FEMA NEMA,
But let's pretend we got no reimbursements.
right.
If we had a balance of 148, and then you drop right down to the funding request for FY26.
With 715.
So you added that 715 and subtracted the
Yeah,
800.
So that's
68
That's 850. So I got
68,000
50K.
bucks. 68,000
I got
bucks.
50K, yep.
All right, like I said, we
That's
have
positive.
nothing for the resiliency
But
fund,
at
but
least
that's
it's
fair.
positive.
Yeah,
What do you mean we have nothing?
We have 50K, which will get us nothing.
It depends on what you want to do.
Indeed.
Well, I think I think that's where we have to get the cadence going of, we're funding, we've got things and we're working, So some years you're gonna be spending a lot of money and actually doing, some years you're gonna be spending money and researching, and you wanna obviously keep that research part going at some level.
I mean, the reason why I requested the 715 and not more was because we had come up with that list of roadways, we've been checking them off. Head of the harbor was delayed because of, the hazard mitigation grant. I have requested additional funding to finish head of the harbor. So in the budget, there's 150,000 to bring that all the way to bid. So the board could decide, we're not ready to do that, let's put it on hold. But the big resiliency project for me was the Ocean Avenue Wanby Beach.
Indeed.
And then
That's-
continuing on head of the harbor.
But if we don't get reimbursed, we're not gonna be able to do Head Harbor, clearly. If we need the 150, we're only gonna have 50, right?
No, there's another 150.
Oh, elsewhere it's not
Specifically,
included in
that's
that
not
715?
included in this, just for the design,
All right, all
yep.
right, all right. So really, it's 865 is what we're doing for resiliency this year, not with 715, which is okay. You could add that Head of the Harbor piece in there.
I think we have to make some choices and decisions, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to manage how many projects we have going on at
And
one
that's right.
time.
And that's
And, and that we had come up with a list, and so I'm trying to work our way down.
Yep.
If we can address the head of the harbor, the goal of getting it to final design is then we can look for grant funding, you know? And so that would be the next one teed up. And then I would probably move to the beach and start dealing with Dyke Road.
What about, where are we with the river?
So the river, we have all grant funding. The only match we have needed is in-kind match. And so both from a community action grant from the state as well as the broadband, the Broad Reach Fund, we're fully funded there for right now for the current investigation and design work in terms of potential solutions for the flooding. So we don't need any funding there right now.
Good, so that's.
And that's gonna be like a 2-year project.
Yeah, and so that's another one, when we're thinking about, you know, all this stuff, that's what we have to do. We have to sit back and look at all this work that we're managing, you know, and we can't, and it takes longer, just like we saw with the pier.
It always takes longer.
It always takes longer, you know, and so and longer doesn't mean that nobody's doing anything. It means that the teams are going back to whoever is having questions, and so there's more work for our town manager and, you know, the people that run these departments that are involved. So that's why we just have to be thinking through how we're working through all this stuff.
Good stuff.
And I'm trying to get these ready because you never know when an opportunity is available.
Right.
You know, it's
Right.
like the
Grant,
hazard
yeah.
mitigation grant.
You've been very good about that.
And so you kind of got to measure like where you need to have them in order to look.
Yep.
So one other thing is I'm going to pass these out. These are the letters from York County regarding the Budget Committee. So every year, the county goes through a process of establishing their Budget Committee. And so they have their meeting scheduled for Wednesday, April 9th, on the front sheet at 6:30 at the York County Government Building. And that is where you have a caucus to establish the Budget Committee. If you go to the last sheet in the packet, you will see where we are in our district. So we are District 2, and we are allowed 3 appointees. Currently, we have one who was elected from another community. Because it can be from Arundel, Biddeford, Kennebunk, or Kennebunkport. There is one vacant elected opening and one vacant public opening. David James had served as our public rep for quite a few years. And so the only people that can attend and vote are elected officials. And I wanted to make you aware that the county is giving you notice of that.
Okay.
Can I nominate Mary Beth?
I might be in Jersey then, so,
It's a one-time meeting,
yeah.
or is this like,
No, they have a couple other meetings. The one-time meeting is to vote for people. To vote for the Budget Committee. So yes, that is a one-time meeting. And then the Budget Committee meets, you know, a few times to review the county budget.
But do they have committees and spin-off groups, or are they just looking
No.
at the budget? That's really what they're doing. Wow.
looks like they got a problem.
And the county staff is doing all the real work behind it and putting all the things, the budget together? Who builds the budget?
The county administrator does.
Wow, it's his or her staff.
Yeah, it's mostly jails. I mean, the budget is jails. And then the budget is sheriff. And then the budget is registry.
Got it.
And so that's the majority of their budget. So, yeah, they
But-
put that together, and then the
But
county budget committee has a big say in what gets funded.
And they determine what the county budget is, and then they determine how that impacts the town of Kennebunkport.
Right.
Mill rate.
Right. Usually we have the new person go.
Really?
Yeah,
How was it last year for you?
it was
Yeah,
good.
but yeah,
It was good. It
You
was really
remember it
good.
well,
I
don't you?
remember it well.
Wait, maybe you could
Yeah.
talk about it.
All right.
All right, we'll think
Thank you,
about this.
Thank you.
Laurie. All right, do we need to move the
No,
warrant?
yes, motion to approve the warrant.
Second,
Got a first and a second, discussion, favor?
move to
Sheila.
adjourn?
No, you got to, oh, did we vote to approve the warrant?
I did, we did, yes. Did you
Sorry.
raise your hand?
No, I didn't. There you go.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.